G'day everyone. In part 2 of this of the diode selector video, I'm just going to be showing you how to actually put one together. It's actually really quite simple, but I'll just explain how I've done it and how the switch works as well, because obviously it helps to understand how the actual switch works before you start soldering things up to it. So I just noticed something here. Actually, I'm going to put this at the start of the video because it's actually a good explanation of how it works. You can see there's a ring around the middle here. And that goes down to C, and then you've got all these other pads with their own tracks around the outside. So as you hit the button, you might be able to see there's a white mechanism inside that's moving around. It's just selecting, it's just shorting C with one of these pads. So here's an extreme close-up. You can see on the output traces from the switch. It's actually got numbers going across the top. Hopefully you can see that. I'll just move the light around so you should be able to. I can sort of see it in the preview. Hopefully you should be able to see it. I think that shows it. So there's numbers there, and the numbers represent the numbers on the front of the switch. And basically it's quite simple. I'll just grab my multimeter. So put your multimeter in continuity mode, and just put one probe on C, which I'm assuming means common. And at the moment I've got 0 on the front, so if I touch 0 there should be a connection, which there is, but if I touch any of the other ones there's no connection. So you can see what's happening when you just press the button on the front. So now I've got 9, so if I touch 9, there's a connection, and there's no connection on any of the other ones. I just tapped 9 then, but yeah. So as you hit the button, basically whenever you hit the button there's a connection between common and one of the other pins. So all you need to do is connect, just pretend the diode's it's like an input and output. So common is the input, so attach a wire to common, and then attach all your diodes to these pins. And the way I did that, I originally thought I might just carve a line to separate. So you can see there's two pinholes on the switch, and I was just going to cut in between to separate those two pinholes. But this PCB is really fragile, and I just thought it's probably just not going to last. So it's probably not going to survive it. So I've put a piece of Vero. So the connection's going to go basically. That's this whole side here is the positive, and this whole side here is the negative. So all your negatives connect to the Vero, and doing so, when you've got one diode selected, because all the negatives are on this side, the signal's not going to go backwards, so you don't have to worry about any loops going on or anything. So that's pretty much it. You just put them all. You can see I've got all the negatives on the Vero side, and then so they're all connected together. All the negatives are connected together, and then you've just got your output on the negatives. So it's pretty straightforward. If you want to have one that kills the sound, just put a link straight across from one side to the other, because if you put a link across from positive to negative, like for mine, for instance, 0 is will kill the sound, as you saw in the sound demo at the beginning of the demonstration of the switch. You're sending your signal to ground, so you won't get anything out the other side. It's basically like turning the volume on the potentiometer to 0. You won't get any volume out. If you want to have the diode pretty much removed from the circuit, so if you've got a circuit that's got 2 diodes and you want to see what it sounds like with only 1 diode, just leave it empty. Don't put a link. Just leave it empty, and then you'll be able to hear what it sounds like with only 1 diode in the circuit. So I've only built 2 of these, but some pedals actually have 4 diodes. They have 2 in series. So you could build 4 diode selectors, and maybe if you put it inside an enclosure or a project box or whatever, you could actually have a switch that will put them in series. So that would be pretty simple to work out. You just put one of the outputs to another one of the inputs, and then with the switch, it'll just turn one of the diodes on and off. So yeah, the possibilities are pretty endless. One other little improvement I'd suggest making is actually to use sockets on the Vero and the switch, so that if you, like for instance the OA126s, if I run out of those, I could just pull it out and put something else in it that I'm using, instead of making it quite, because this is obviously pretty permanent. I've got to unsolder it, which is a bit of a pain in the backside. But you know, if you had sockets there, you could just change them as you like. Also, if you want to record the forward voltage like I did with mine, it's also a good way to test whether your switch is working as well. You just put your multimeter on the diode setting, and then you just put the plus on the plus and the negative on the negative, and it comes up with the forward voltage. So this BAT41 has a forward voltage of 0.375. So you can test now with the switch, if you want to see, to make sure that the BAT41 isn't shorted with one of the other diodes. Put it on the BAT setting and then just measure the forward voltage, and if it's the same, then you know, you should be fine. You might have a slight variance between them, but they all should be roughly the same. That's how I tested mine. So as I mentioned in the first video, you can get these switches on eBay, and they're about $5 for 10. And I actually had 2 left over. That's why I've actually built these 2 diode selectors, because I was just sort of thinking of a use for them, and I thought they'd probably make good diode selectors, which they have. They're really good. But you can use the rotary switches as well, which you should be able to get off most electronics websites. But yeah, I use the other 8 for a different project. I've got 8 more that I'm using for a different project, but that will be coming shortly. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.